Today I'm addressing the drama in 3 different situations. The first of which is the departure of G3 from Kingdom 254. The second thing you could consider to be a little bit of a palate cleanser, a little bit of memes, just lighten the damn mood for situation number 3, which is a double betrayal in Kingsland. So you don't have to like my opinion, but in this video, I'm gonna freaking share it. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and you may remember from a previous video that I talked about how we basically asked an entire alliance to leave Kingdom 254. That is my kingdom. And that is the precursor to the Facebook drama that subsequently unfolded and the victim energy flowing like crazy around this situation of, oh, poor G3, that they have to leave 254. 254 is so toxic, they must have victimized them. It's 254's fault. Well, okay, let's look at the message shared by the G3 leadership in their separate G3 Discord server, which why would you have a separate alliance Discord server when the rest of the kingdom all communicates in the same server, but whatever. Okay, in their own server, they made this message. Announcements. Shocking announcement, right? I read it at the same time as many of you. No doubt the narrative has been carefully planned, controlled, and appropriately timed to coincide with post-KVK when our services are no longer required. Let me tell you something. There was conversation, a little bit of it. I'm on the outside of this stuff, okay? I'm not really in the inner circle, okay? I'm focused on creating content, which is the gosh damn exact place I need to be focused. Let me simply say that it was extremely considerate of 254 leadership to tell you as soon as it was decided and there was no going back that y'all needed to find another home. Like, the most generous thing they could do is tell you right away to give you as much time as possible to figure out what the heck you're going to do next. So this is not about like, huh, they're casting us aside because we're no longer needed. No. In 254's perfect world, y'all would perform to 254 standards, and there would have to be no kicking at all, okay? But let's just keep going here, all right? Each and every one of you should be proud of how well you performed in this game. And I place emphasis on the word game. And hopefully you enjoyed this last KVK as a group. Okay, now, we all know it's a game, okay? But you gotta understand, 254, first of all, has a lot of fun. And second of all, takes this game way too seriously. That's the whole point. The whole point of being in an Imperium kingdom is that the kingdom takes the game really, really seriously. Okay, but continuing on here, okay? Personally, I have poured a disproportionate amount of time into the planning, meetings, and discussions over game time. With the help of our officers and players, we've built G3 into a decent, mature fighting alliance that holds its own and gets the job done. Now, I won't speak to whether or not the job gets done or not, but understand that the decision to split G3 was based in data. And I suppose I could ask and see, like, hey, can I share all the data from how alliances perform? But then I got to talk to every alliance and get their permission. All that to say, this is not an opinion as to how G3 is performing. It's just facts. It's like just the data. And it's visible to the officers of this alliance. So they know how they're performing compared to other alliances. And the real issue, when you looked at how G3 was doing, was that if you carved off the top 1/3 of performers, they were carrying all the weight of everybody else in the alliance. And this is the problem with underperforming players in Rise of Kingdoms. Now, I've explained this in many videos, and this is where the hyper-casuals get out their pitchforks, okay? And let me explain, which is that what happens is that your big contributors lose lots of troops, lose lots of resources, and get thinner and thinner and thinner. Whereas your low contributors get fatter and fatter and fatter, such that what actually happens is that no longer can your high contributors who have gotten so thin carry the heavy weight of the fat non-contributors. Okay, this is the disease that impacts all kingdoms. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to realize it. I'm just telling you it's a fact in every kingdom in the game. So the question is, will you deal with your dead weight? Will you have the courage to really look at it and say, what is and isn't working here? Because if you don't, your high contributors get so thin that they can no longer carry the weight of everybody else. Okay, this is just how this game works. Okay, you got to understand that's base level. Okay, so what you have is an alliance where the top third was really carrying the other 2/3. Those same players who fulfilled the kingdom standards, by the way, can simply apply to other alliances within the kingdom. There's a detailed process for that, and they can stay within 254. It's only the players that have not met the standards that actually have to leave the kingdom. This is a part of the reason why, as soon as Kingsland was over, as soon as it was clear this KVK was decided, this message went out, because that was the time in which people had their opportunity to finally make some last heroic huzzah to try to actually fulfill their contribution requirements. Meanwhile, like, the R5 is offline in Kingsland, and after Kingsland's over, we're trying to rearrange the flags, and like, it taken 24 hours to get a response. So like, we literally had to like burn some of their flags, which is really embarrassing because like they couldn't be bothered to actually delete them for us. So it's like really messy, and it's not too messy. Okay, I don't think there's gonna be any civil war. Although, hey, like, people still gotta lose power in 254, but like, no, I think it's all gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine, right? But there's more to this, and let's read the rest of this message. I have read the narrative that has been distributed, and I am beyond disappointed at how it unfolded despite our efforts, and it shows a complete lack of appreciation over multiple KVKs. I could bore you with the details of how they wanted our shrines and our shells, including farms, and generally to sideline G3 and affront by continuously blocking us for their own greed of poaching our best players. Okay, let me just talk about this for a second. When W came to 254, okay, this is like a premier end game, top tier alliance, okay, with what, I don't know where I was over now, with like 700 plus billion kill points, okay? We got 0 of the shrines, literally 0 shrines, because alliances wanted to hold on to the ones they had. And then like eventually something ultimately happened where like it was worked out. But like the shrine greed was like insane. It was like super real. And there was like no realization that like, hey, we're a kingdom and like we should just like share, like basic sharing. I'm not going to get into that drama because players quit over that drama and it was insane. But let me continue on. Often wondered if I could have taken the easy road and just accepted what was given, but that's not my nature. It's always served me well in life to stand up against the odds, sometimes on principle alone, and I see no reason to depart from that in a darn game. Now, let me tell you, I'm sort of like doing a mocking voice, all right, as I read this, but I actually don't know who sent this message. I genuinely do not. Like, sincerely. So whoever sent this message, I'm not like mocking you. I have no clue who this is. I'm just reading it in the way that I hear it because it's so ridiculous to me. G3 was the last independent alliance left in 254. I'm sorry, but let me stop there and tell you, if that doesn't tell you the whole story of why this alliance had to leave, that is so insane that an alliance thinks of itself as a separate entity. The whole rest of the kingdom's like, yay, we're a kingdom. And G3 be like, we're our own alliance. Don't take our holy sites. Don't you dare. They're ours. It's just like bonkers, mind-blowing. I can't even fathom that line, that phrase. G3 was the last independent alliance. A kingdom should have 0 independent alliances. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. After the previous alliance leadership of Liv and SX54 all left following management disagreements, for those of you who've been around long enough to remember, we got on well with them and have reached out to me following the kingdom announcements. I mean, 254 is a competitive kingdom, okay? There's no independent. There's no I in 254. We all die together, and everybody's killing their troops, okay? Except the people who aren't, and that's what needed to be addressed here. Something I really just needed to add in here, by the way, is this aspect of 254's Discord. There is a room in our Discord server titled, Is This a Recovery KVK? To remind you that it is not. Because certain players previously have been confused. Like, I thought we were recovering now. There's never a recovery KVK in 254. You freaking play your freaking heart out. You probably lose power KVK over KVK. And at some point, we'll reach a point, maybe, where we're like, yeah, we don't need to drop Imperium this time around. That's fine, right? But we're not there yet. So there are no recovery KVKs in 254. But there's more. It's been a tough KVK behind the scenes, and I'm pleased to have made it through without showing too many cracks, which would have been damaging for morale. I knew the moment I read, like a regular member, they were bringing in a 5th alliance, our days were numbered. Let me tell you how wrong that is. That is the most wrong underperformer syndrome I have seen in as long as I can remember. Again, allow me to explain. The kingdom does better if more people are here. The whole point of an Imperium drop is to get more people here, not to remove the people you have. The difficult thing in building an endgame top-tier kingdom is doing the Imperium drop where you get a limited number of players in and you repeat that process over and over to get as much power as you can, having everybody drop as much power as they can so that you can bring in more players and get bigger and bigger and bigger as a kingdom so that you can take on tougher fights with people all sharing the same mindset of approximately the level of aggressiveness with which they want to play the game. That's the Imperium endgame. You don't have to like it, but that's how it goes. So this idea that we wanted an alliance to leave, the writing was on the wall, is again absurd because it is 100,000 times better to have all of these players be performant and stay. This is the reason there are guidelines for how players contribute. So they can be performant, they can be successful, and the officers are supposed to be pushing for their members to be performant. And when G3 has been asked to leave, it's because some of that simply wasn't happening. And I'm not on the inside of how all that went down, but the data is simply there on how the alliance is performed. And I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm really not trying to make anybody feel bad, but it's just facts, man. And like, maybe if the G3 officers were saying, go fight, go, when the rest of the kingdom was doing that instead of save power for later, right? Like, this would be a different story. But that's not what the messages were at the crucial moments. But let me keep going here. As anyone with common sense know, 5 alliances does not work in a KVK format where there are 4 alliances per coalition. Look, everybody moves around between alliances. This is completely irrelevant. You're so stuck in your my alliance, my shell, I stay here mentality, you cannot even see how that is such an irrelevant point to even bring up. But let me continue. Just like bringing in a 5th alliance was not discussed with G3, nor was the unsustainable KVK target requirements. The KVK requirements, this is what it takes to be in an endgame kingdom. You don't have to like them. You don't have to be here for them. A lot of people really enjoy them. It's really fun to play in a kingdom that absolutely freaking dominates in the open field. It's really fun to play in a kingdom where you can go to bed because there's lots of other people online to carry the torch. It is very fun. It is very relaxing. I have never had more fun than when I have been in 254. It's a big freaking badass Imperium that's going to take a fight and it doesn't really care about winning or losing as long as we get really good fights, which is why we took a 3v5 instead of taking some sort of 4v4 as an example. The risk of losing is fine. We have to get difficult fights. They are so much more rewarding, and it's better to have a tough fight and lose a lot of power because the end game is to grow the biggest, baddest kingdom you possibly can. The only way to do that is with losing power, and the only way to do that is hard fights. So yes, in 254, you don't gain lots of power. I have lost power KVK over KVK, every KVK that I have been here. That's just how it goes. If you want to hoard power, go to a C or D kingdom, right? And you can see what that's like there. Continuing on, it's always been a particularly sore spot for me when we are expected to achieve the same stats from an unequal starting point or opportunity. This to me is really weird, and let me explain. In 254, everybody is given a target based on their power. So the idea that like one player has some unfair thing and G3 has some unfair expectation of them is really weird to me. The expectations are based off of player power. Every single player has an expectation based off of their power. So there's nothing unequal of the starting point. There's no unequal opportunity when anybody can join any alliance anytime, 24/7, like 7 days a week. There's fighting once pass is open in this KVK. The opportunity is endless. I dropped 7 million power. That was 2 million T4 troops just about on my farm in 30 minutes alone in this KVK. You can lose power so damn fast here if you want to and get your contribution in the blink of an eye. Now, your open field fighting you got to earn, but that's why there were some really fluffy kingdoms in this KVK where you could go smack them around, no offense intended, and just get a lot of kill points really fast, which like, I let other people go to those fronts. I stayed fighting 1306, which in my opinion was one of the I certainly was the tougher kingdom to fight in terms of open field when they were online. Now the final paragraph. I can sincerely say I value G3 members' contribution, and I wish you all happiness and fun if you decide to stay or move on. As for me, I'll do what I can for G3 members whilst I am here, but I will move on and not look back to 254 and all the deplorable style of churning kingdom management here. Let me tell you, okay? I've been in a bunch of kingdoms. This kingdom has the best leadership, bar none, of any kingdom I've been in, and it's not even close, okay? The level of commitment, the level of intelligence, and people say that 254 is toxic, but the amount of fun that the officers have as they go about doing what they're doing, this is a very, very fun kingdom to be in. It's a damn cool place. And not only is this a cool place, but this has to be the most genuinely kind departure and severance, by the way, I have seen ever executed in my entire time playing Rise of Kingdoms. You may be like, what do you mean? This group, which underperformed, has the following options, okay? And this is like the most generous I have seen. As long as players adhere to the same troop requirements that every single player of the kingdom is actively working to fulfill right now, then those players can stay as long as they want leading up to the next KVK. You heard me correctly. So not only is this not about dropping some amount of power for our migration, that's not it at all, but players can stay as long as they meet the kingdom's requirements so we can do our migration so that they can take all the time they need to find the kingdom they want. Let me explain that again. You don't have to migrate out right away if you were a lower performer in G3. You can take your time, find the alliance you want to go to, okay? Take your damn time and then go to some other kingdom at your leisure, as long as you just drop power as the rest of the kingdom is doing. You can stay as long as you need to find the right place. That is very generous. Normally, like, it's get out or be zeroed. I remember when Squad did that, it was like, you got 24 hours or get the hell out of here. That's the common way of doing it. Honestly, it really is. So this is not some like greedy, selfish 254 move here. It's a like, hey, take your time. You can get your KVK rewards. No problem. We understand. As long as you fulfill your kingdom obligation for the migration, stay. That's fine. Totally fine. Honestly, I really don't have anything against the G3 leaders. I personally did not have any bad experiences, but for 254 to say the leadership needs to get out and to remove them from council, like, there has to be a dramatic difference between the leadership of G3 and the rest of 254. And I feel like this message right here shows so much of that. The belief that they are separate, difficulty with sharing, difficulty with understanding that everybody upholds the same contribution standards, difficulty understanding that you signed up for those dang standards by virtue of being in this kingdom, which is aspiring and has always aspired to be one of the most, if not the single most badass kingdom you can find for KVK. So, like, there's no surprises here, in my opinion. I signed up to lose power KVK over KVK, and I'm doing it. And like, yeah, I know I have a lot of power, but so is the rest of Wolf. And the idea that this group is held to a different standard from everybody else is totally bogus. Every alliance is addressing their players that missed on contribution. This is just facts. A part of me debated whether or not I should even talk about this in a video. I may look like a raving lunatic as I talk in this video. And you know what? I'll leave it up to you to decide if I'm the raving lunatic here or not. I feel like the split here has never been more clearly the right thing to do based off of this message right over here. I didn't even know they had their own Discord. Like, that is mind-blowing to me. You know what other kingdom made their own alliance-based Discord? And you see how they perform now. No offense, but like 1075 made their own Discord, and they struggle with like the same problems of having like people that have way more troops than they should. And I'm just going to share this idea very simply. You don't have to like that this is the meta in this game, but I'm going to explain the Rise of Kingdoms meta in under 60 seconds so you understand. KVK matchmaking is based in part off of power. The top 300 players by power set the difficulty of who you will be matched up against, which means if the players in that top 300 by power don't contribute, then your matchup is harder. And not only is your matchup harder, but your contributors get thinner and thinner and thinner until they no longer can carry the weight of your dead weight and your kingdom dies. So your choice is cut the fat or your whole community implodes. Your call. But to me, it's just the difficult reality of how matchmaking works, and you gotta play the meta in order to actually be a meta kingdom. Otherwise, I mean, you see how it goes, man. In some lighter news, you may recall in a previous video that I had shared that Baba was retiring from Rise of Kingdoms to let his son play the account. He then clarified, whoa, I'm not like gone. Like, I'm still gonna play when I can. It's just my business is really successful. And he shared this message. I forget what it said originally, but it said something like, I'm not retiring, and he signed it Baba, right? And now people are taking this image and swapping it out with the meme of their choice, which, like... It is actually really funny to see what people have put in the To The Rock community signed Baba message here. It's like a blank freaking check, baby, and the internet lets you meme however you please. The final drama item on tonight's menu is a Kingsland Double-Betrayal where the ziggurat has been passed around more than Mephisto's Rise of Kingdoms account. I honestly can't keep track of what the hell is happening in Cortex's Restart KVK, so let me try to explain to you how this went down. Cortex is in the Alliance Fame in pink, and he migrated back to KVK Season 3 in order to enjoy the delights of the Light versus Darkness KVK all over again. And they were in Kingsland. They had a tough fight, but unfortunately for Cortex and his allies, they got evicted from Kingsland. And you'd think, well, GG, they tried, the story is over. But no, my friends, this is only the beginning, because the next thing that happened is two alliances that were in the winning war camp. That's these four kingdoms in purple, in teal, in blue, and in yellow. Two of those kingdoms got into an argument of who's going to get the zig for that star on your flag. The only thing more irrelevant than stars on your alliance banner in Rise of Kingdoms is the commander Charlemagne. But regardless of the irrelevance of this star to these two kingdoms, this was reason enough to exact one of the most insane betrayals I have seen of all time, because one of the kingdoms that was in the victor group went to the four losing kingdoms in the opposing war camp and said, I'll tell you what, you let us keep the zig and y'all can go win the KVK, because in this version of KVK, winning is determined by how many of these structures are destroyed. So this one kingdom betrayed the rest of their camp, the other three kingdoms, over a dispute over who would get the star, and then, boom, all of the kingdoms came rushing in. They reclaimed Kingsland, and the five-kingdom betrayal group was victorious. Or were they? Because then, in the most absurd plot twist that I myself couldn't have imagined in my wildest imaginations and darkest dreams, the four kingdoms that had this one group give them a gift, a betrayal gift, then said, we're going to kick you out of Kingsland now. So they built their way into Kingsland and then kicked out the group that even made it possible for them in the first place. It was a double betrayal of absurd magnitudes. And now it went to a 3v1v4. That's right. This Kingsland fight turned into a 3v1v4 until the group that bickered over who was going to get the star ultimately sang Kumbaya, hugged it out, and it once again became a 4v4 KVK. Now, I don't know how the hell this thing's going to end, but it looks like, for now, unfortunately for Cortex, him and his allies are not in Kingsland. But if you want to see when Cortex was double rallied in Kingsland and he absolutely slaps using a YSG with Tamaris Garrison, I'm going to have a card in the end screen. It's going to show up here in a minute. And if you missed the first video talking about why G3 was being asked to leave the kingdom, that drama video will appear right over here in the end screen. You probably want to check that out.